From Wish TV and the All Indiana Podcast Network, this is the News 8 Daily 8 Podcast, a Wish TV News 8 update.
Hi, this is Hannah Mordeau, and this is your News 8 Daily for Thursday, October 30th. It is really kind of spooky, not nice start to the day. Rainy, cool outside in the 40s. The good news is that the rain's going to move on out as the day goes on. Highs will be in the mid-50s. Going to be pretty breezy outside, but Halloween, things are looking dry, just in time for trick-or-treating. New on Daybreak, one man is dead and another is critically injured after police say two men got into a fight and stabbed each other at a downtown gas station. It happened just before 10:30 last night at the Speedway on Kentucky Avenue. That's one block from Lucas Oil Stadium. Officers found the men with stab wounds. Medics took both of them to the hospital, where the man police described as the suspect died and the other man was in critical condition. IMPD addressed concerns about the stabbing happening so close to the FFA convention.
They were not involved. There was no one around to our knowledge when this incident occurred. But again, it's an isolated incident and we do not believe there's any threat.
Police say they are looking for witnesses before deciding on any charges against the injured man. New this morning, the Irsay family says it's going to auction off former late Colts owner Jim Irsay's collection, including guitars, history, and much more. The Colts put out a statement early this morning. They say it's going to take place, the auction, sometime in March, and most of the proceeds will be donated to different causes. The Irsays say the decision to sell Jim Irsay's extraordinary collection of music, American history, and pop culture artifacts and memorabilia was not made lightly, but with deep reflection and love for the legacy he built. Happening today, two Trump administration cabinet members are coming to Indiana. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy are heading to Gary for an announcement alongside Governor Braun. Noem, Duffy, and the acting head of Immigration and Customs Enforcement are set to speak at 11 this morning, Central Time, so noon Indianapolis time. They say the topic will be Operation Midway Blitz, the current crackdown in Chicago and the surrounding area, including Lake County. Federal officials have not yet released the location of the news conference, prompting criticism from the mayor of Gary. Eddie Melton released a statement saying local leaders are not part of the appearance, writing, "Let me be clear, the office of the mayor and the city of Gary have not been involved in organizing, planning, or facilitating this event." The mayor of Hammond is a critic of the immigration crackdown after ICE agents tried to use his city's police department as a staging area this month. Tom McDermott writes on Facebook, "Sounds more like a spy movie than a public briefing because nothing builds public trust quite like a secret immigration press event in Northwest Indiana." News 8 government reporter Garrett Berquist is headed to Gary this morning for the news conference. He will have a full report coming up tonight on Wish TV News 8 at 5 and 6 o'clock. At the state capitol, House Speaker Todd Houston says the legislature will not meet on Monday to start the special session to redraw congressional districts. Governor Braun had called for the session to begin on Monday, but the speaker says they need more time for lawmakers to adjust their schedules. State law says special sessions must take place within 40 days of the start date that the governor sets. The legislature is already set to meet on November 18th for Organization Day, the official start of the 2026 regular session. State lawmakers have rejected a move to use money from the state budget surplus to keep SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, to keep it running when federal funding for it ends this weekend. Our news gathering partners at Indiana Capitol Chronicle report that the state budget committee voted down the proposal 3-2 along party lines, with Democrats on the panel voting yes and Republicans no. Federal funding is set to end Saturday due to the government shutdown. The state says more than 570,000 people in Indiana use SNAP to help buy groceries. News 8's Malia Van Ostrin talked to one of them about his fears for the immediate future.
For Donovan, every meal counts. He depends on federal SNAP benefits to put food on the table, but now those benefits and the security they bring are in jeopardy.
I'm very concerned. I don't know what I'm going to do. I know you can go to food pantries and stuff, but it's going to be so out of control. I mean, you might be standing there 5-6 hours to get any food.
The U.S. Department of Agriculture says federal food aid will not go out November 1st if the government shutdown continues. According to Gleaner's Food Bank, about 600,000 Hoosiers could lose their SNAP benefits. Children, the elderly, and people with disabilities are the most vulnerable.
I get benefits on the 15th of the month. I'm on Social Security. I'm very scared what's going to happen. Not just for me, but the other people out there.
Mike still says he's disabled, so finding work is difficult, but he plans to try to find a job so he can put food on the table. He said the last time things were hard and he went to food banks, he was homeless in downtown Indianapolis. He says it was during COVID and the food banks were running low of food.
I've done construction in the past. I'm a musician. I play guitar, stuff like that, but I'm in my 50s. I'm going to return 52 in a couple of weeks. So, it makes it hard for guys like me, and the workforce. A lot of people don't want to hire guys as my age.
He doesn't think he'll be able to find work quickly and says he's not opposed to asking family, friends, or the community for help. He hopes others who are in similar situations aren't afraid to seek assistance.
I'll ask for help if I have to, yeah. Sometimes you got to swallow your pride in life. That's just the way it is. I'm hoping and praying something happens. They open back, everything opens back up. If not, there's going to be a lot of people hurting.
Gleaners and other food banks say they'll continue serving families as long as possible, but donations and volunteers will be helpful if federal aid stops. In studio, I'm Malia Van Ostrand for Wish TV and WishTV.com.
New this morning, President Trump says he's cutting tariffs on China following his face-to-face meeting with the country's president. That happened today. Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping met this morning in South Korea during Trump's tour of Asia. Trump told reporters that China has also agreed to allow the export of rare earth elements used in electronics, and the country will once again start buying American soybeans. If the cuts are made, the total tariff rate on Chinese imports will be 47%. So far, though, China has not commented on the meeting. The Federal Reserve has cut its key interest rate for a second time this year, but the Fed chair cautions that further rate cuts are not guaranteed because of the uncertainty that the government shutdown is causing. The quarter-point cut comes despite inflation remaining high as the nation's job market tightens. Fed Chair Jerome Powell says future interest rate action is up in the air since the shutdown is interrupting federal reports on the economy. Let's go to Jane King now with your business headlines. She starts with breaking news from a big Indiana business. She's the Lilly numbers.
Just released their earnings. It looks really good. So Lilly blew past expectations on soaring sales of Mounjaro and also Zepbound. The stock is up by 5%. So we're waiting to hear some comments from the executives, but the stock already reacting very positively. Now, also President Trump and China's President Xi Jinping have wrapped up a meeting in Asia. And President Trump says that a deal has been reached on some things. Other things need to still be talked out. Some very big items on the agenda here: fentanyl, agricultural trade, the sale of TikTok's U.S. operations. Now, pharmaceuticals are the leading Indiana export to China, totaling $3.2 billion. Soybeans, of course, another significant Hoosier export to China. So we're waiting for a joint statement, perhaps, from the world leaders to see what actually happened and what happens next. Well, the federal government shutdown could cost the U.S. economy between $7 and $14 billion, shaving up to 2% from economic growth in the fourth quarter due to a lapse of government spending. This according to the Congressional Budget Office. Now, the partial shutdown is in its 30th day today with no end in sight. Senate Republicans calling on Democrats to support a stopgap measure that would fund the government through November 21st. But Democrats are demanding negotiations to extend the expiring federal tax credits for the Affordable Care Act. Well, the Federal Reserve did cut interest rates by 0.25% yesterday for the second straight meeting. The Fed particularly worried about the sluggish job market. The Fed chair, Jerome Powell, by the way, said no guarantee for another cut in December. And artificial intelligence startup Character AI will ban kids from having conversations with chatbots on its platform following pressure from lawmakers and some lawsuits that say the characters are harming children. Now, the company said that by November 25th, it will stop users under the age of 18 from having open-ended conversations with chatbots, and these characters characters range from digital representations of video game heroes to mimics of celebrities like Elon Musk. Well, we were calling yesterday a Super Wednesday. We had the Fed meeting, tons of earnings, China trade talks. Stocks did hit record highs, but then the Dow rolled over and ended up lower on the day. And in fact, this morning we're looking at a lower start. Live from the New York Stock Exchange, I'm Jane King. Back to you.
Cleanup is underway in the Northern Caribbean this morning after Hurricane Melissa pummeled the region. The storm left dozens of people dead and caused widespread destruction across Cuba, Haiti, and Jamaica. In Jamaica, officials say at least 8 people are dead and 77% of the island is without power. Jamaica's airports are open and planes are delivering emergency relief to the country's main international airport. In Haiti, officials say at least 25 people are dead and 18 are still missing. No one was killed in Cuba. Officials there say they evacuated more than 735,000 people across eastern Cuba and that many of them are now returning home. New on daybreak, police in France have arrested 5 more people for the theft of crown jewels from the Louvre Museum. And prosecutors in Paris say that police caught the suspects last night, adding to the 2 arrests a few days ago. The theft happened in broad daylight, October 19th. So far, most of the treasures taken are still missing.
Down the front stretch, it's a drag race. Marco Andretti, Hornish, who's going to win? At the stripe, it's Hornish. Hornish wins by 6/100ths of a second.
That is still the moment fans think about when you mention Marco Andretti, as he almost won the Indianapolis 500 as a 19-year-old rookie. Now, after 20 starts in the race, the third-generation racer is calling it a career. Andretti is 38 and says he's turning his attention to his daughter, business ventures, outside racing, and writing a memoir. Marco Andretti won twice in 253 IndyCar starts. He stopped racing full-time in IndyCar in 2020, but had come back each May for a run in the 500. He's the last of a line of racing Andrettis, from his grandpa, Mario, to Marco's dad, Michael, and his uncle, Jeff, and cousin, John. The injury-ridden Pacers head home looking to rebound tomorrow at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Team fell on the road in Dallas to the Mavericks 105-107. Indiana had a chance to win when Aaron Nesmith grabbed a rebound, but he missed the three-pointer. Pacers were forced to play without several big names, including Obi Toppin and Benedict Mathurin. Team's newest player, NBA slam dunk champion Mac McClung, did get in the game for his team debut. He had 7 points. Pacers start a 4-game homestand tomorrow, Friday, against Atlanta. The WNBA is offering players a 30-day extension for negotiations of the new collective bargaining agreement. Current deal is set to expire on Friday. An extension would allow both sides to work toward a new agreement. If an extension is not reached, though, it could lead to players going on strike or a lockdown initiated by the owners. It is not clear yet if the union will accept the extension. Former IU Indianapolis basketball coach Paul Corsaro says he's planning to sue the school for wrongful termination. School fired him in May after an investigation into misconduct allegations from a group of players. Corsaro's attorneys say he was never told the specific reason for his firing and calls the university's termination statement as plainly false. Corsaro coached the Jaguars for 1 season. They finished 10-22. A long-running haunted house on the south side of Indianapolis is ready for its final weekend of scares. The organization of Nightmare on Edgewood says this is their last Halloween ever. News 8's Hernan Gutierrez talked to the team behind the operation and tells us why they're hanging up the masks.
So the building that houses Nightmare on Edgewood is up for sale, and it's been in a warehouse off of South Meridian Street for about 5 years now, although it's been welcoming thrill seekers for almost half a century. The owner tells me that he's been taking the sale as an opportunity to take a step back and finally enjoy trick-or-treating with his 7-year-old son.
Nightmare on Edgewood has entertained horror fans in the Circle City for 48 years. Kevin Cook has been lending a severed hand, an ear-splitting scream, or a rusty wrench for the last 32 of those years.
I started when I was 7 years old. Started grabbing ankles down at the ballpark where Nightmare on Edgewood was started.
The haunted house was originally a fundraiser for the Edgewood Little League. Eventually, no one could volunteer anymore. That's when Cook stepped in to keep the tradition alive.
And all the staff members you see behind me on the wall and that are with us for many years, they do it for the love of it.
Today, it's now a full-contact, fully immersive experience for those who love to get scared. The team of actors includes Jadrian Barry, She also helps cast others to incite fear into the masses.
A lot of people have a lot of great memories that they're coming back and just kind of reliving it and seeing any changes and just kind of reminiscing. And that's just really cool to hear.
Danielle Rija started as an actress, but has since moved away from Indianapolis. She handles marketing from Denver.
I always loved the autonomy and responsibility that I had to make it my own and yet still be a part of something so cool.
Both say Nightmare on Edgewood was their escape, allowing them to transform into their real selves every weekend during the Halloween season.
We have our day jobs. A lot of us consider those to be our acting roles.
Cook hopes someone will step in to take over, but as it stands, the haunted house will close at the end of the season.
This is my life. It's basically been my child. Very, very big hobby of mine. It wasn't easy. It still isn't easy. It's kind of surreal right now, bittersweet.
Nightmare on Edgewood's final full weekend starts tonight at 7. They'll be open through Saturday, then they'll open up one final time for a lights out night on November 8th. I'm Hernan Gutierrez for Wish TV and WishTV.com.
Dictionary.com has revealed its word of the year. It is 6'7". The site says it chose the term because headlines, social media trends, and search engine results. As for the definition, Dictionary.com says it's complicated. It says 6'7" can mean so-so, maybe this, maybe that. It can also just mean nothing. Ask your kids, though. They do think it's cool. This has been your News 8 Daily from Wish TV. I'm Hannah Mordell. Watch us on Wish TV and WishTV.com.
This is the News 8 Daily 8 podcast, a Wish TV News 8 update on demand. For even more, on demand and on the go. Connect with Wish TV on Facebook at WishTV.com and on the free Wish TV mobile app. Thank you for listening. And be sure to like, subscribe, and follow this podcast for updates every weekday morning on the All Indiana Podcast Network and wherever you get your podcast.